Have you ever felt like you are your own worst enemy? That something inside you sabotages your efforts just when you are about to reach your goals? If so, you are not alone. This phenomenon, known as self-sabotage, is more common than you think and has deep roots in our psyche. Today we will dive into a fascinating journey into the depths of our mind, guided by the revolutionary ideas of Carl Jung, one of the fathers of modern psychology. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like an iceberg. The part you see above, the surface, your conscious thoughts, desires, and goals, is only a small fraction of what is really there. But beneath the water, hidden from plain sight, lies a huge and powerful mass that influences every aspect of your life. This submerged part is what Jung called the shadow, and it is the key to understanding and overcoming self-sabotage. The shadow is not just darkness and negativity as you might think. It's a treasure trove of unrealized potential, of parts of yourself that you've repressed or ignored throughout your life. And here's the fascinating thing. The more you deny or repress your shadow, the more power it has over you, often manifesting as self-sabotage. Have you ever wondered why, just when you're on the cusp of accomplishing something important, you suddenly do something that ruins it all? Maybe you've worked hard to get that promotion, and right before the final interview, you oversleep and are late. Or maybe you've been on a strict diet for weeks, and suddenly you find yourself devouring an entire box of donuts. These aren't simple mistakes or a lack of willpower. They're manifestations of your shadow, parts of yourself that are struggling to be recognized and expressed. In this video, we're going to embark on a transformative journey. We will explore together what the shadow really is, how it manifests in our lives, and most importantly, how we can integrate it to free ourselves from self-sabotage and unlock our true potential. I promise that by the end of this journey, you will have a new perspective on yourself and powerful tools to transform those patterns that have been holding you back. Get ready to delve into the depths of your mind, to confront parts of yourself that you may have been avoiding, and to emerge stronger, more whole, and more authentic than ever before. This is not an easy path, but I assure you that every step is worth it. Because on the other side of this journey awaits a version of yourself that is more powerful, freer, and more capable than you have ever imagined. So, if you are ready to stop being your own worst enemy and become your own best ally, stay with me. We are about to dive into the fascinating world of Carl Jung's shadow and discover how to overcome self-sabotage once and for all. Before we dive into the depths of the shadow and self-sabotage, it is crucial that we understand the context in which these revolutionary ideas arose. Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst born in 1875, was not only one of the founders of analytical psychology, but he was also a pioneer in exploring the human unconscious. Jung began his career working closely with Sigmund Freud, another giant of psychology. However, while Freud focused primarily on sexual repression as the source of our psychological problems, Jung believed that there was much more at play. He viewed the human psyche as a complex and dynamic system filled with archetypes, symbols, and energies that influence our behavior in ways we don't even realize. It is in this context that Jung developed the concept of the shadow. For him, the shadow was not simply a repository of negative or bad impulses, as many might initially think. Instead, he saw it as an integral and necessary part of our psyche, containing everything we have repressed, denied, or failed to develop in ourselves. Imagine for a moment that from your childhood you have been told that you must always be kind and accommodating. Over time, you repress any impulses of anger or disagreement, pushing them into your shadow. But those impulses don't go away. They are still there, influencing your behavior in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways. This is the heart of why shadow work is so crucial to overcoming self-sabotage. When we deny parts of ourselves, they don't magically disappear. Instead, they become more powerful in their subconscious influence, often manifesting as self-destructive behaviors or decisions that seem to go against our best interests. Self-sabotage, from the Jungian perspective, is not simply a lack of willpower or a character flaw. It's a symptom of an internal war, a struggle between the parts of ourselves we recognize and accept and those we've relegated to the shadows. But here's the fascinating and hopeful part. Jung believed that shadow integration was not only possible, but essential to our personal growth and fulfillment. He saw this process as a heroic journey, a psychological odyssey that we're all called to undertake. Imagine for a moment that your psyche is like a kingdom. The conscious part of you is the ruler of this realm, but there's a dark, mysterious part that you've been ignoring. This part contains unimaginable treasures, unbridled creativity, fiery passion, unyielding strength, but it also contains monsters, deep fears, repressed anger, crippling insecurities. The journey we are about to embark on is like stepping into that dark part of the realm. Not to conquer or destroy it, but to understand, accept, and integrate it. Because only when we recognize and accept all parts of ourselves can we truly be free from self-sabotage and reach our full potential. This journey is not easy. It requires courage, brutal honesty with oneself, and a willingness to face aspects of ourselves that may be uncomfortable or even scary. But I promise you that the benefits far outweigh the challenges. As we go through this video, we will explore together the common manifestations of self-sabotage, how to identify our own shadows, and most importantly, how to begin the process of integration. I will give you practical tools and exercises that you can begin to apply in your daily life to begin your own journey of self-discovery and transformation. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate your shadow. That is not only impossible, but would also be counterproductive. Your shadow contains life energy, creativity, and potential. The goal is to recognize it, understand it, and integrate it into your conscious self. In doing so, you will not only overcome self-sabotage, but you will also unlock a level of authenticity, creativity, and personal power that you may never have known you had. So, if you are ready to embark on this transformative journey, if you are willing to look into the depths of your being and embrace all parts of yourself, then continue with me. We are about to dive into the deep waters of the human psyche and emerge stronger, more whole, and more authentic than ever before. Now that we have laid the groundwork for what the shadow is and why it is crucial to understanding and overcoming self-sabotage, let's dive deeper into how it manifests in our everyday lives. Because you see, self-sabotage isn't always as obvious as falling asleep before an important interview or screwing up a diet. Often it presents itself in much more subtle and sneaky ways. Imagine for a moment that you're in a relationship that seems perfect. Your partner loves you, supports you, and makes you happy. Yet you find yourself constantly looking for trouble, starting arguments over petty things, or even considering ending the relationship for no clear reason. This could be your shadow at work, perhaps a part of you that fears intimacy or doesn't feel worthy of love, sabotaging what you consciously desire. Or maybe you're a talented artist, but you never show your work to the world. You always find a reason to put it off. It's not good enough, it's not the right time, or no one will want to see it anyway. These excuses could be manifestations of your shadow, perhaps a part of you that fears success or the judgment of others. Self-sabotage can also manifest itself in negative thought patterns, that voice in your head that constantly tells you that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve success, or that you will inevitably fail. That voice isn't your true self. It's your shadow projecting your deepest fears and insecurities. But here's the fascinating part. Even behaviors we consider positive can be forms of self-sabotage if they come from our unintegrated shadow. Take extreme perfectionism, for example. It may seem like an admirable quality, but it's often a manifestation of fear of failure or criticism. It can paralyze us, preventing us from taking risks or completing projects, or consider the case of someone who is always busy, never taking a break. On the surface, they may seem productive and dedicated, but this behavior could be a way to avoid facing deeper feelings or issues. It's self-sabotage disguised as virtue. The key to identifying self-sabotage in our lives is honest, non-judgmental self-observation. We need to be willing to look beyond the surface of our behaviors and ask ourselves, why am I really doing this? What am I avoiding or denying? Jung believed that the first step to integrating our shadow was to acknowledge it, and this requires a willingness to be brutally honest with ourselves. It requires us to look at those parts of ourselves that we've been avoiding, those behaviors that embarrass or frustrate us, and to recognize them as part of who we are. But here's the important part. This recognition isn't about judging or punishing ourselves. It's about understanding. Every aspect of our shadow, no matter how negative it may seem, was once a survival strategy. It was a way we learned to protect ourselves or deal with the world. The problem is that now, as adults, these strategies no longer serve us. In fact, they're sabotaging us. Let's take the example of someone who constantly underestimates themselves and avoids taking risks. This behavior might have arisen in childhood as a way to avoid disappointment or rejection. At the time, it was a protective strategy. But now as an adult, that same strategy is holding this person back from reaching their true potential. The process of shadow integration involves recognizing these patterns, understanding where they come from, and then consciously choosing more mature and adaptive responses. It's not about eliminating these parts of ourselves, but about transforming them and redirecting their energy in constructive ways. Imagine your shadow is like a scared child inside you. You can't just ignore it or punish it. You need to listen to it, understand its fears and needs, and then, as the adult you are, guide it toward healthier forms of expression. This process is neither easy nor quick. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But the benefits are enormous. As we integrate our shadow, we not only overcome self-sabotage, but we also release a tremendous amount of psychic energy that was previously trapped in repression and denial. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if all the energy you spend fighting yourself, sabotaging yourself, denying parts of yourself, was suddenly available to pursue your dreams and goals. That is the promise of shadow work. In the next section, we will explore some practical tools and exercises you can use to begin identifying and working with your own shadow. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. It is not about reaching a point where your shadow disappears completely, because that is neither possible nor desirable. It is about developing a more conscious and harmonious relationship with all the parts of yourself. So get ready to dive deeper within. We are about to explore some powerful techniques that will help you shine a light on the dark parts of your psyche and begin the process of integration. This is the path to a more authentic, fulfilling life, free of self-sabotage. Are you ready to take the next step? Now that we have explored what the shadow is and how self-sabotage manifests in our lives, it is time to dive into the practical tools we can use to begin our journey of integration. Remember, this process is not about eliminating or suppressing our shadow, but about recognizing, understanding, and integrating it into our conscious being. The first and perhaps most powerful tool we have at our disposal is conscious self-observation. This involves developing the habit of observing our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judging them. It's like we're a curious scientist, observing the patterns of our own mind. A practical exercise to get you started with this is what I call the shadow journal. Every night before you go to bed, take a few minutes to reflect on your day. Write about times when you felt uncomfortable, times when you reacted in a way that surprised or disappointed you. Don't judge these moments, just observe them and describe them. Over time, you'll begin to notice patterns, recurring themes that will give you clues about the contents of your shadow. Another powerful technique is dream work. Jung believed that our dreams are a direct window into our unconscious, where our shadow resides. Keep a dream journal by your bed, and as soon as you wake up, write down everything you can remember from your dreams. Don't worry about interpreting them right away. Over time, you'll be able to start to recognize symbols and recurring themes that will give you valuable information about your shadow. A third tool you can use is the shadow dialogue technique. This involves giving voice to the parts of yourself that you normally repress. Find a quiet place where you can be alone. Close your eyes and visualize your shadow as a separate figure. It can be a dark version of yourself, an animal, or whatever. Form your mind conjures up. Now engage in dialogue with this figure. Ask it what it wants, what it needs, why it acts the way it does. Listen without judgment. This exercise can be surprisingly revealing. It is important to remember that working with your shadow can be emotionally intense. Don't be afraid to seek the support of a therapist or counselor trained in Jungian psychology if you feel you need it. They can provide a safe, guided space for you to explore these deeper aspects of yourself. Another powerful technique is conscious projection. Jung observed that we often project aspects of our shadow onto others. The things that bother us most about other people are often reflections of unacknowledged parts of ourselves. The next time you find yourself reacting strongly to someone, whether with irritation, envy, or any intense emotion, ask yourself, what is this person showing me about myself? What part of myself am I seeing reflected in them? Art and creativity can also be powerful tools for working with the shadow. Jung was a great proponent of using art as a means of psychological exploration. Draw, paint, sculpt, or write about your darkest emotions, your fears, your repressed desires. Don't worry about creating a masterpiece. The goal is expression, not perfection. This process can help you give form and expression to aspects of your shadow that are difficult to articulate in words. As you begin to work with these tools, it's crucial to maintain an attitude of curiosity and compassion toward yourself. Remember, your shadow is not your enemy. It is an integral part of who you are, a source of creative energy and unrealized potential. The goal is not to beat your shadow, but to learn to dance with it, to integrate it into your conscious being in a way that allows you to live more fully and authentically. It is important to understand that this process is not linear. There will be days when you feel like you have made great progress, and others when it feels like you have regressed. This is completely normal. Shadow integration is a life journey, not a destination you arrive at and stay at forever. As you begin to work with your shadow, you are likely to experience a number of changes. You might find yourself more aware of your thought and behavior patterns. You might notice that your relationships become deeper and more authentic as you become more honest with yourself and others. You might discover new sources of creativity and energy that you didn't know you had, but you're also likely to encounter internal resistance. You might feel fear or discomfort when facing aspects of yourself that you've been avoiding for a long time. This is normal and expected. Remember, your shadow formed as a protective mechanism. Part of you may resist this process because you fear that by facing these dark parts, you'll become vulnerable or lose control. This is where self-compassion becomes crucial. Treat these fearful parts of yourself with kindness and understanding. Recognize that they're trying to protect you, even if their methods are no longer helpful. Thank them for their intention, and then gently guide them toward healthier forms of expression. As you go through this process, you're likely to start noticing changes in your self-sabotaging patterns. You might find yourself pausing before automatically reacting in situations that would have previously led to self-sabotage. You might start to recognize your triggers and respond to them more consciously and constructively. Imagine, for example, that you used to procrastinate on important projects because you feared failure. As you work with your shadow, you might start to recognize this pattern when it arises. Instead of automatically giving in to procrastination, you might pause, recognize the underlying fear, and consciously choose to move forward despite it. Or maybe you used to sabotage your relationships by pushing people away when they got too close. As you integrate your shadow, you might start to notice when you're about to do this. You might recognize the fear of intimacy that drives this behavior, and instead of acting on it, you might choose to be vulnerable and allow connection. It's important to remember that integrating your shadow doesn't mean you'll never experience self-sabotaging impulses again. These impulses are part of being human. The difference is that you will now have a greater awareness of them and more choice as to how you respond. As you move through this process, you are also likely to experience a growing sense of authenticity and freedom. By accepting all parts of yourself, even those you previously considered unacceptable, you free yourself from the constant need to maintain a facade. You can begin to live in a way that is truer to who you really are, with all your complexities and contradictions. This process of integration can also lead to an increase in creativity and life energy. When you are no longer spending so much energy repressing and denying parts of yourself, that energy is freed up to be used in more constructive ways. You might find yourself more inspired, more motivated, more able to pursue your dreams and goals. But perhaps the most profound change you will experience is a greater sense of wholeness and acceptance of yourself. By embracing both your light and your dark, by recognizing that both are essential parts of who you are, you can begin to feel more complete, more integrated. You are no longer at war with yourself, but in a state of acceptance and understanding. This is the true gift of shadow work, the ability to love and accept yourself completely, with all your imperfections and complexities. And from this place of self-acceptance, you can relate to the world in a more authentic, compassionate, and powerful way. As we continue our journey of exploring the shadow and overcoming self-sabotage, it is important to remember that this is not a process that has a defined end. There is no point at which we can say, "That's it. I have fully integrated my shadow and will never self-sabotage again." Instead, it is an ongoing journey of self-discovery and growth. Imagine for a moment that your psyche is like a vast ocean. Shadow work is like diving into its depths, exploring the hidden currents and sunken treasures that lie beneath the surface. Each time you dive, you discover something new about yourself. And like the ocean, your psyche is constantly in motion, always changing and evolving. A crucial aspect of this ongoing journey is the practice of mindfulness. This practice, which involves being fully present in the moment without judgment, can be a powerful tool for working with your shadow. By cultivating the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions without completely identifying with them, you create space to recognize and work with the contents of your shadow as they arise in your daily life. For example, imagine you're in a stressful situation at work. Normally, you might react with irritation or anxiety, perhaps even sabotaging your performance in some way. But with the practice of mindfulness, you can notice these impulses arising without necessarily acting on them. You might notice, there's that anxious feeling again. What is it telling me about myself? What part of me is seeking expression? This ability to observe without judgment is crucial to ongoing shadow work. It allows you to maintain a curious and compassionate relationship with all parts of yourself, even those you find challenging or uncomfortable. Another important aspect of this ongoing journey is the practice of regular self-reflection. This might involve journaling, meditating, or simply taking time each day to reflect on your experiences and emotions. By making this a habit, you create a regular space for self-discovery and integration. As you progress on this journey, you are likely to encounter deeper and deeper layers of your shadow. You might discover aspects of yourself that surprise you, both positively and negatively. It's important to remember that this is normal and expected. Each new revelation is an opportunity for further growth and self-understanding. For example, you might discover that beneath your tendency toward perfectionism is a deep fear of failure. And beneath that fear of failure, you might find a burning desire to be unconditionally loved and accepted. Each layer you uncover leads you to a deeper understanding of yourself and gives you more choices about how you want to live your life. It's crucial to maintain an attitude of curiosity and openness throughout this process. Treat each new discovery about yourself as a treasure, regardless of whether it initially seems positive or negative to you. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate the parts of yourself that you don't like, but to integrate them in a way that allows you to live more fully and authentically. As you continue this journey, you're also likely to notice changes in your relationships with others. By becoming more aware and accepting of all parts of yourself, including your shadow, you are likely to become more compassionate and understanding of others. You may begin to see their negative behaviors not as something to condemn, but as expressions of their own unintegrated shadow. This can lead to deeper, more authentic relationships. You are no longer projecting your shadow onto others or reacting defensively to their projections. Instead, you are able to relate to them from a place of understanding and empathy. However, it is important to note that this process can also bring challenges in your relationships. As you change and grow, some relationships may feel uncomfortable or no longer fit. Some people in your life may resist the changes that are occurring in you. This is normal and not necessarily a bad thing. It is simply part of the process of growth and transformation. Throughout this ongoing journey, it is crucial to practice self-compassion. There will be times when you feel frustrated, when you feel like you have regressed, or that you are struggling with the same issues over and over again. In these moments, remember to be kind to yourself. Shadow work is a life process, not a race that can be won or completed. Imagine that you are learning to dance a complex dance. Sometimes you will take one step forward and 2 steps back. Sometimes you will stumble or step on your partner's feet. But with practice and patience, the dance becomes more fluid, more natural. Shadow work is similar. With time and practice, you become more skilled at recognizing and working with your shadow, at integrating it into your conscious being in a way that allows you to move through life with more grace and authenticity. As you continue this journey, you might find it helpful to seek additional support. This could be in the form of therapy, coaching, support groups, or simply deep conversations with trusted friends. Remember, although this is a deeply personal journey, you don't have to do it alone. In fact, it's often in relationship with others that we gain some of our deepest insights into ourselves. It's also important to remember that shadow work isn't just about facing our negative sides. It also involves recognizing and reclaiming our unrealized gifts and potentials. Often, our deepest talents and most burning passions are hidden in our shadow, waiting to be discovered and expressed. For example, perhaps you've repressed your creativity because at some point in your life you were told you weren't good enough. By working with your shadow, you might rediscover that creative spark and allow it to blossom. Or perhaps you've repressed your leadership ability because you fear the power and responsibility that comes with it. By integrating this part of your shadow, you might discover a new ability to lead and inspire others. The journey of shadow integration is ultimately a journey toward wholeness. It is a process of accepting and embracing all parts of yourself, both those you consider good and those you consider bad. It is a path toward a more authentic, freer, and more fulfilling way of living. As you continue this journey, keep your curiosity alive. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep discovering new facets of yourself. Remember that every challenge, every moment of self-sabotage, every uncomfortable emotion is an opportunity for further growth and self-understanding. And now, as we near the end of this exploratory journey, it is important to reflect on all that we have discovered together. We have delved deeper into Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. We have explored how self-sabotage manifests in our lives, and we have examined tools and techniques for working with our shadow and overcoming self-sabotage. But remember, this is not the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. Shadow work is a life process, an ongoing path of self-discovery and growth. Each day offers new opportunities to deepen your self-understanding, to more fully integrate all the parts of yourself, and to live in a more authentic and fulfilling way. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you could fully embrace all the parts of yourself. If you could accept your fears, your desires, your dark impulses, not as enemies to be defeated, but as valuable parts of who you are. Imagine the freedom you would feel, the energy you would have available, the creativity that could flow through you. This is the potential that is unlocked when we work with our shadow. It is not an easy path, but it is incredibly rewarding. Every step you take toward integrating your shadow is a step toward a richer, fuller, more authentic life. So I invite you to begin this journey today. Start observing your self-sabotaging patterns with curiosity and compassion. Start exploring the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding or denying. Start imagining what it would be like to fully embrace all the facets of who you are. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Millions of people around the world are embarking on their own process of self-discovery and growth. And while each journey is unique, we all share the common desire to live more authentic and fulfilling lives. So, are you ready to take the next step? Are you ready to dive into the depths of your being and emerge stronger, more whole, and more authentic than ever before? The journey may be challenging, but I promise it's worth every step of the way, because on the other side of this journey awaits a more integrated, more powerful, and more free version of yourself. A version of yourself that is no longer at war with itself, but has learned to embrace all of its complexities and contradictions. A version of yourself that is capable of living fully, loving deeply, and creating passionately. This is the gift of shadow work. This is the power to overcome self-sabotage, and it is available to you here and now. So I encourage you to take that first step. Begin today to explore your shadow. Begin today to work on overcoming your self-sabotage, because the world needs your light, all of your light, including the parts you have kept in the shadow. Remember, every time you confront a difficult part of yourself, every time you choose awareness over denial, every time you treat yourself with compassion instead of judgment, you are growing, you are healing, you are transforming. And with every step you take on this journey, you're getting closer to living a life that is truly yours, a life that reflects all the richness and complexity of who you really are, a life free from the constraints of self-sabotage and filled with the possibilities that open up when we fully embrace who we are. So go forth, brave explorer of your own psyche. The journey awaits you, and while there may be challenges along the way, remember that there are also unimaginable treasures to be discovered. Treasures of self-knowledge, of deep understanding, of unleashed creativity, and of genuine freedom. And who knows, perhaps by embarking on this journey, you will not only transform yourself, but you will inspire others to do the same. Because when we dare to face our own shadow, when we dare to live more authentically and fully, we create space for others to do the same. Imagine a world where more and more people embark on this journey of self-discovery and growth. A world where people are no longer at war with themselves, but have learned to embrace all parts of who they are. What would that world look like? How much more compassion, creativity, and love could there be? This is the potential that is unlocked when we work with our shadow and overcome self-sabotage. It is not just about improving our own lives, although it certainly does that. It is about contributing to a more conscious, more compassionate, and more integrated world. So I leave you with this final invitation. Dare to look into your shadow. Dare to face the parts of yourself you have been avoiding. Dare to embrace your wholeness. Because in doing so, you not only liberate yourself, but you also contribute to the liberation of everyone around you. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that step you can take today. So go ahead and take that step. Your true self in all its complexity and beauty is waiting for you, and with that we conclude our journey of exploring the shadow and overcoming self-sabotage. But remember, even as this video comes to an end, your personal journey is just beginning. Every day is a new opportunity to deepen your self-understanding, to more fully integrate all the parts of yourself, and to live more authentically and fully. So go forth, brave explorer. Your shadow awaits you, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as an ally to be discovered. And on the other side of that discovery awaits a life richer, fuller, and more authentically yours than you have ever imagined. Thank you for joining me on this journey of exploration. May your path to integrating your shadow be filled with fascinating discoveries, profound growth, and above all, a growing sense of wholeness and self-acceptance. Until next time, and remember, your shadow is not your enemy. It is your ally on the path to your true self.